Hello, this is James Hudnall, and welcome to another episode of Creative Secrets. This one is about backstory. Backstory is the history of your story's world and its characters. Backstory is usually something that you need, but it's not always required. Some stories don't need a backstory. Sometimes you just want to make it mysterious and have the characters unveiled as the story of the course proceeds, and then you learn what you need to know in that instance. But in most cases, a backstory of some kind is required so people can understand what's going on. And it breaks down into two different types of backstory. One is the history of the world or the story. So even though it might be taking place in our world, in our time, the relevant facts of the place and the people where it's needed, those can be revealed to give the story more depth and to give it a sense of place and time, and we can get a sense of the personality of the players. But the thing about backstory is you don't want to load it on people too much. You want it to be given to them like a present. You want them to unwrap the gift and take it in. You don't want them to be clubbed over the head with it. So the last thing you want is an info dump, an exposition drop that's too heavy. You want it to be a natural flow, just like if you were to walk into a strange town and you slowly take in the sights and talk to the people, you eventually learn things as you go through it. You don't have that luxury in a story because the time is limited, but you want to replicate that experience of learning about new things. And that's what a backstory is a method for filling in details that need to be filled. But you don't want to bury people with information, and you don't want to bore them, definitely. So you want to make the process natural and feel almost as if you don't even realize it's being done. The second type of backstory is the character backstory. So it's the history of that particular person, and it's only the history that they need to know. One thing you won't learn when you become an adult is that when you go on a date, you don't tell the other person that you meet on the first date everything about yourself. You want to create a sense of mystery, or you want to make them interested in learning from you over time. You don't want them to just hear everything there is about you. If you ever make that mistake, you'll hopefully learn not to do it again. But as a writer, you can't do that. You cannot dump too much information on people. People can only assimilate so much information at once. And the thing is, you want to lead people into it. You want to seduce them, just like you would on a first date. You want the other person to find you appealing in some way. You don't want to turn them off. So you don't want to do things that are off-putting. The same thing with revealing a backstory. Unless you want something bad to be told about the character for some reason, then you would reveal that in a good way, hopefully. But the point of a backstory of a character is you paint a portrait, and it's the portrait that's a facade. But as you go through the story, you're going to add more details to flesh it out and give it dimension. As I will get into when I start doing characterization, I'll be talking about how you can round out characters and give them more depth and everything. But for now, just understand that when you give a backstory, like for example, if in a novel you just have a paragraph describing the character for the first time, it's the first impression. A lot of times in this novel, a character is described as if another character sees them and what their impression is. It's the writer telling you what they see. But in reality, if it's a good novel, if the writer is a good writer, then they're going to give us more than that as the story progresses. We're going to learn more about that character. It's not just going to be what they look like on the first date or the first impression. So it's the same thing, where you are presenting your character to people for the first time, presumably, and they want to be given just the information they need, and that's it. You do not want to give them more than that, because you want people to want to learn more. You don't want them to be told all this stuff that's not necessary right off the bat. In reality, in a lot of cases, you meet people all the time that you only get to know for a brief moment and then you never see them again. So you have to look at it from that perspective, that a lot of the characters that are met in the story are just there for a moment and then they're gone. So the characters that matter are the ones you need to have details on. The characters that don't matter only need details if it's relevant to the story, if it's not going to get in the way, or if it's going to be used for a good, important purpose. I briefly talked about place already, but I just want to get into a little bit more detail here. The backstory of a place can be very limited if you want, but you can also get into much more detail if you're trying to establish a mood in a location. If you want a place to have a sense of atmosphere, and that doesn't necessarily mean spooky, it could be positive atmosphere, but if you want there to be a feeling that goes beyond just being an ordinary, like a gas station or a supermarket or something, you want it to be much more interesting than that, then what you do is you put in elements that give it some character, just like a person. So a place can be made into a character just like you can do with a person. Sometimes creating a mood in a place can set up the situation for you so that going in, the characters or the audience is given a feeling that you can use to your advantage. This is done a lot in horror movies, but it can also be done in positive ways. In a comedy, for example, you might want to make a place seem goofy or wacky or odd. You can use all kinds of ways of giving a scene personality. It's something to think about anyway. So that's it for this episode. Next episode, we'll delve into story structure, which will take several episodes to tell because there's a lot of details to story structure. I already gave you like a brief introduction, but I'm going to get into it in more detail. So please check out the links below, check out my books, and check out Agenda, which only has 3 days left in its campaign. We're short about $600, so we could really use some help there. And thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe. Please tell your friends to subscribe. Please try to get people to check out this series. I would really appreciate it. And I hope to see you soon. Thank you. Bye.